I'm good, if you're good. All good to go? Good afternoon, David Crisafulli, being joined by John Krause. Well, this is our 29th Queensland Health Crisis Town Hall from the heart of Beaudesert, and it's great to be joined by John Krause with a room of local residents who will bravely come forward and tell their stories. We are holding these across the state, and we will keep holding them for two reasons. The first is it gives us an opportunity to shine a light on the Queensland health crisis, to pay tribute to the brave doctors, nurses and allied health professionals who work in the system, but also show the perils of under-resourcing and poor planning that has led to the health crisis that the state is experiencing. And by doing so, we hope that the government will listen to the solutions being put on the table and get serious about healing the health crisis. The second is it gives us a chance to allow individuals to be able to get the justice they deserve. And at all of these, we've been able to take up the fight for people, and we have been able to get them surgery that they have been languishing on waiting lists. And across Queensland, there are 60,000 people who are in that category. Brave Queenslanders who are waiting to have surgery, nearly 300,000 who are waiting just to get on that waiting list. And it shows you the extent of the system and the poor planning that has ensured that the health crisis has continued to escalate. I just wanted to make some local comments, but then most importantly I'll ask John to do the same. But ambulance ramping in Queensland is at 41%. That is the worst in the country. In the Logan Hospital, which this beautiful community relies on, it's at 61%. That is the worst in the state. You're approaching nearly 2 in 3 people who turn up at the Logan Hospital not being seen on time. That is a recipe for disaster. And when that happens, an ambo is stuck at the end of the ramp in Logan, and as a result they aren't able to get to Beaudesert and serve someone in their hour of need. This is a mighty community, and it's a community that's very proud of where they live, and they're proud of their identity. And it is nearly 9 years to the day that maternity services were restored at this hospital. Nearly 9 years to the day. And for a decade this community didn't have that. And as I go around the state and listen to communities that have had that service withdrawn, I know how much that hurts their identity. People deserve the right to be able to have a baby where they live in as many situations as possible. And 9 years on, nearly 300 women gave birth here at this local hospital last year. That's just a cause for success, and it's something that we should have a focus on delivering into the future. Since 1998, 38 maternity services have been closed in this state, and the only break in that transmission was in the 3 years of the LNP government between 2012 and 2015, when 3 services were brought onto line and 1 more was in the pipeline to come on. It can be done. With the right attention to detail, you can allow people to have a baby where they live and be proud of the community they call home, and have a world-class health service no matter where they live. I'll ask the local MP, John, to say some words. G'day, John.
Thank you, David. John Krause, member for Scenic Rim, and I want to thank David for coming to Beaudesert today to listen to the concerns of locals here in Scenic Rim community, not only from the Beaudesert area but also from Tamarind Mountain and the Boona areas as well. Now, I am extremely proud to represent this area and to fight for their better health services every day. And the fact is, they've been let down by this Labor government. When we talk about 61% ramping at the Logan Hospital, that impacts Beaudesert because it means that ambulances are stuck at Logan, and it can take an awful long time for someone in Carralbin to be tended to when they're having a heart attack. I want to know, and our community should be able to expect, that if they're injured at Rathdowney or at Carralbin or at Darlington or at Kerry, that they can get an ambulance in a timely manner. And when you have 61% ramping at Logan, it's the worst in the state, 41% ramping across the state, the worst in Australia. Something needs to give. I'm happy that David is here, so pleased that David is here to listen to our concerns in our community and to also celebrate 9 years of Beaudesert maternity being reinstated under the LNP government. Now, since that time, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of families being able to give birth locally, safely, with their family, and that's something that all Queenslanders should be able to aspire to. It's been a massive success, but it took hard work from our doctors, our midwives, our nurses, and also great political will to make that happen back in 2014. It's something I'm enormously proud of, but something that brings a huge amount of benefit, not just for mothers and their families, but it also brings other services to our community, allied health professionals. It brings more expertise to our emergency department, to our hospital in general, and that's why it's such an important issue for all Queenslanders. And I think Beaudesert is a great example of how we can do better for Queensland as a whole, and Queensland certainly deserves better from their health system.
Over to you. They want to know that they can get services where they live, and I look forward in the next hour or two, but already people have told me that in some cases they move to this community to live near the hospital and they're still having to commute to get services. Now, no one is suggesting that every hospital across Queensland will have every service, but increasingly we're seeing a withdrawal of services from communities rather than increasing them. And I would have thought in a modern era with the improvement in medicine, we should be looking to deliver more services at the coalface rather than withdraw them. And if we want people to live in regional areas, they need to expect and deserve a world-class health system. And we're serious about that. And I want Queenslanders to know that our focus is to ensure that doctors and nurses are empowered to deliver those services in the community where they live. You bet. And I don't accept that 61% is an acceptable figure, and I don't accept 41% statewide is. And I'm sorry, but when this government came to office, they made a lot about the health system, and at that time, ambulance ramping was at 15%. Well, that seems like a distant memory. We're now at 41%, and it remains stubbornly high. It was 30% when former Premier Bligh said it was a basket case. We're still miles away from that. So what are our solutions? Better resources, better triaging, sharing data in real time, and putting doctors and nurses back in charge. Now, 3 of those things can happen almost immediately with minimal cost, and that will have an immediate impact in driving those numbers down. And we're serious about it. Queenslanders shouldn't have to wait on the end of a phone line, begging, hoping and praying for an AMBO to turn up who is frustrated and stuck at the end of a ramp because of 8 years of poor planning. It can be fixed.
Workforce shortages are a huge issue. How do you propose to get more doctors, nurses, allied health?
Good question. It's twofold. It's valuing and respecting the ones that you have, putting them back in charge to make decisions and feel respected. And it's about actively attracting people to areas by giving them world-class training and the facilities around them to bring them to an area. That's what it looks like. Now, at times that will mean a whole package to entice a family to an area. At other times, it'll look like specialist training that allows people to be able to go to other areas to upskill themselves, whatever it takes. But I don't accept that we should say that because of a failing health system that we just simply give up. And when I talk to doctors and nurses, the number one request they have is for us to put them back in charge. They have had enough of the centralisation of power. They've had enough of the lack of ability to make decisions at the coalface. And I think the greatest gift we can give them, along with the resources they need and some of the things like sharing data in real time, is to allow them to have a say on the way their hospitals operate. And that was the whole premise of setting up health boards. And increasingly their power is being centralised back in Brisbane, so is the funding, and no one wins when local people are told how to do things from someone living elsewhere. Well, the people charged with keeping law and order are now the victims because of a weakened Youth Justice Act. Can you believe we've got to that? Can you believe it has got to the stage where police become a battering ram because the Youth Justice Act has been watered down so much that young offenders know their rights are greater than the rights of the people tasked with enforcing the law? I'm blown away. And I might just make one more comment on that. And while the government's in Townsville, they should have a bit of truth serum when it comes to police numbers, because by the government's own figures, you can see that the growth in police just simply has not kept pace with demand. There are fewer police, there are weaker laws. Is it any wonder we are in the middle of a youth crime epidemic? Righto, thank you.